Hello YouTube chess lovers and my friends, this is Gunjan here. Welcome to the 33 episode of Dirty Chess Tricks. In this episode, I'm going to show you one of the Carlsen's amazing trick against Sicilian Kan or the Hedgehog structure. In the year 2004, 8th round of the Wijk tournament, Carlsen had the white pieces and he unleashed one of his shock weapon which later on became more fashionable. He opened up with the move e4 and his opponent responded with the move c5, and we have the Sicilian Kan on the board after the following move order, that is knight to f3, e6, d4, c captures d4, knight captures d4, and now the move a6. Carlsen continued here with one of his pet line, that is c4, a Moroxy bind kind of setup where White control the d5 square and enjoy a slight space advantage. Black continues with knight to f6, attacking e4, knight to c3, defending, and now here there are two popular choices from the black. One is to play bishop to b4 combining with the move queen to c7, and the second plan which happened in this game, that is d6, and after Carlsen fianchetto his kingside bishop with the move g3, black continued with the move queen to c7. Okay, bishop to e3, b6, and now first critical movement of the game, bishop to g2. So white is gambiting the whole c4 pawn and black dare not to take it. A callous opponent can easily fall into this because after queen to c4 and rook to c1, the opening of the c file gives a decisive advantage to the white. For example, if queen to c7, then the simplest is knight to b5, and after queen to d8 and knight to c7, white wins the exchange with a winning position. And instead of queen to c7, if black try to become smart and play the move queen to b4, then he will be in a bigger trouble after the following move order, that is a3, queen to a5, knight to b3, queen to h5, desperate to exchanging the queen. But after bishop to f3, this position is completely winning for the white. If queen to g6, then bishop to h5 is a very strong reply. And accordingly, if queen to h3, then knight to b5 is winning for the white. Finally, what happens if queen moves, let's say, to e5? Well, then after bishop to f4, that sweetie is trapped at the center of the board. So it is very clear that queen captures c4 leads to some risky play by black. So in the game, black continue with the move bishop to b7, and after castle on the king side, continue with his piece development such as knight b to d7, rook to c1, and now bishop to e7. So black has created this hedgehog structure, that is a6, b6, d6 and e6, which control the fifth rank. And not only that, it's not easy for white to break through this pawn chain, especially if he's playing for the win. Black's idea in these structures are very simple. He wants to castle, and then depending on the white response, he gradually wants to create a pawn break at the right time. Before this game, the most popular choice by the white is rook to e1, where many game has been drawn. But in this game, Carlsen was in a completely different mood and he come up with this exceptional preparation. Boom! So suddenly from nowhere, white is sacrificing the whole piece and black has to work out what he is going to do about it. There are two obvious choices for the black, either take the piece or run with his queen. If queen to b8, then the simplest is you take this bishop, and after king takes, I think these positions are very easy to play as a white. The problem here from the black camp is his king is stuck in the center, and on top of everything he has to defend this weakest spot d6, which is not easy to handle. For example, a sample line can run like this: b3, rook to d8, f3, king to f8, queen to d2, king to g8. So finally king has done the artificial castle, but after white's next reply, that is rf to d1, I think black has a huge problem defending the d6 and in fact the game. In a very recent game, black has tried the move queen to d8, which at first sight looks very natural. But against this, white has this another dazzling move, e5. So continuing his piece sacrifice mode with a very good initiative. There are two distinct lines over here. First, what happens if your opponent captured the pawn? Well, after this, white has this flashy move, knight captures e6. So attacking two spots. So black response is force. Black has to take this knight. But after knight captures f6 check, knight captures f6, bishop captures b7, attacking the rook, rook to b8, and bishop to a6. After the whole sequence, it turns out that not only white has extra pawn and a bishop pair, but black has some horrible pawn structure which is close to loss. Well then, what happens if your opponent take your piece? E captures d5. Well, against this, white response is pretty obvious. White has to take the piece back, and now black has two obvious choices. If we take with the knight or the g pawn, let's say knight captures f6, then the following continuation gives white a very good advantage, that is e captures d5, castle on the king side, and now knight to c6, and that monster knight cannot be kicked away, and if black take this knight, then the c pawn will be 2 square away from the queening. So obviously this is not a good choice for the black. So the more accurate response here is bishop captures f6, and after that white has this another attacking move, knight to f5, attacking on d6. So black response is force. Black has to play queen to b8. White will keep pressurizing the d6 square with the move bishop to f4, and black can defend this with knight to e5. So at first sight it looks like there is no attack to speak of and black is quite comfortable. Well, perception can be deceptive, and here white has this forcing sequence, that is bishop captures e5. If bishop captures e5, then f4 is a very strong reply. So the obvious move is d captures e5, queen to a4 check. Kindly note, if b5, then queen to b4, and black has to postpone the castling for a long time. So the correct continuation here is king to f8, and now the simplest is you take this pawn. So if you analyze this position right now, you can easily see that this king is completely misplaced and black pieces are not coordinated properly. I like to show you one of my game from this position where my opponent continue with the move g6, attacking my knight, but I rather continue with my own attack with queen to d7. He grabbed my piece and I reveal my idea, that is rook to c7. So threatening mate on f7, my opponent defended with queen to e8, but after queen captures f5, white is attacking two spot and black cannot defend both of them. In the game, he continues with the move king to g7, but after queen check, king to f8 and rook captures b7, not only black king is stuck in the center, but white has some easy plans such as rook to c1, and then rook swings to the c7 with a deadly attack to boot. Not to mention there is an outright passer on the d5 square. All in all, this is a wonderful position to play as a white. So from these variations, it is very clear that running with the queen is not a good choice for the black. So the obvious question need to be arise, what happens if black accept this piece? Well, after that, white response is very obvious. White is going to capture with the c pawn, attacking the queen. And if the knight to c5, then b4, white regained the piece with a very good position. So the critical response is queen to b8. And this is exactly happened in this game. Carlsen continued with his initiative with knight to c6, attacking the queen. And this is the beauty about this line is queen doesn't have any good spot to hide. So black response is force. Black has to take this knight. But after d captures c6, just on the 15th move of the game, obtain a completely winning position. In the game, Carlsen's opponent continued with the move rook to e7, but after pawn captures and knight captures, not only white obtained a 2 bishop pair, but black has a horrible weakness on d6, which Carlsen easily exploited in the middle game. I have attached the rest of the game in the PGN, which you can check it out. The biggest question arises, instead of sacrificing the piece back, what happens if black try to save the piece? Let's say either knight to e5 or knight to c5. Well, to demonstrate the plan of the campaign from the white side, I like to show you my 2 games where in the first game, my opponent continued with the move knight to e5. I responded with the move c7, attacking the queen. He stopped the pawn advancement with queen to c8. And now another attacking gesture, f4. And I think black is already lost in this position because after the game continuation, that is knight to g4, attacking the bishop, bishop to d4, and black plays the obvious move, castle on the king side. But then he hit by this wonderful move, e5, which stamps white victory. D captures e5, f captures e5, knight to e8. But after bishop captures a8, it's very funny that black cannot even touch this bishop because then white will promote another queen. Probably the most accurate knight move is knight to c5, but after that black will continue with the move c7. So the same idea, if queen captures c7, then the simplest is you play e5, attacking 2 spots which cannot be defended. So instead of queen captures c7, the better move is queen to c8, protecting the a8 bishop. But nevertheless, white will continue with the move e5, attacking 2 spots. And after d captures e5, bishop captures a8, and queen captures a8. At first sight, it looks like black obtained 2 knights for a rook and the position can be playable. But if I tell you that the position is immediately winning for the white, then you might get surprised. Before I move on, I like you to pause this video and find out a forcing variation which gives white a winning edge. Did you find it? Let's see. Bishop captures c5, bishop captures c5, and now the dazzling move. Yup, you guessed it. Rook captures c5. Boom, boom. Well, what's the big idea? The idea is after b captures c5, white is going to continue with the move queen to d6. So not only stopping the castle, but the simple idea is rook to d1 and then checkmate on the d8 square. I got this position against a candidate master where my opponent continued with the move queen to c8. I responded with the move rook to d1 and now knight to d7. So at first sight it looks like black has defended every single thread and white is a clear piece down, right? Well, that's right, but this is all prepared and here I continue with the move queen to c6. So my simplest idea is I want to take this knight and after queen takes, I'll promote my pawn to the queen. So something black has to respond immediately, and I think he played the accurate response, that is king to e7, guarding the queen and the c8 square. But after white's next reply, it is very obvious that black game is not going to survive long. Can you see one of the most accurate response from here? Well, the surprising enough, the move is f4, and more you look at this move, you will find out that more poison it carry. For example, if black take this pawn, then queen to d6 is a very deadly reply. And if the pawn moves forward, then queen captures e4 gives white a winning attack. So in the game, after a long consideration, my opponent continued with the move f6. So safeguarding is e5 square. But after the move f5, black position is completely collapsing. The game wrapped up very quickly. Rook to e8, queen to d6 check, king to f7, queen captures d7 check, king to f8, and finally the finishing knot, queen captures c8. Black resigns in the view of rook captures c8 and rook to d8, and there is no way black can stop white to queen the pawn. Well, I hope you enjoy and learn this wonderful knight to d5 idea against Hedgehog or the Sicilian Kan structures. Look out for such a moves in your own games, which gives white a great dynamism and play for the win attack. Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to like, subscribe and comment on my video, and I'll meet you in my next episode very soon. Bye and take care.